guys have a lot of commitments outside of class, maybe like sports or a job or whatever. So I try to make it as easy as possible. Um, uh, for the past couple of weeks, I've been having issues with my arm. I actually got it all fixed today. I got out of my cast. I had a ruptured bicep tendon that kind of inhibited me, and I was unable to type for a couple of days. So when we get back to grading the discussions questions and your political awareness assignments, I'll definitely be able to give you feedback now. So I think the class has been going pretty well. A lot of you have some really good insight on the discussion questions, and you had a lot of good insight on the first awareness assignment that was due. Now we have another one next week, so remember that on 10/7 it'll be due, and the topic is very much wide open. You can use any topic you want. With that being said, we do have an exam coming up. I originally scheduled it for Friday, but I do know a lot of you have commitments. I don't know if there's, I imagine there's football going on too. So I know some of you might be going to school and then attending games and stuff like that. So I decided to make the test due on Saturday. Now it's password protected, and I'll give you the guys the password on Saturday morning. If you need to access the test early, please send me an email, and I'm going to keep an eye on who takes the test early and who I give the password to. So if you need to take the test early, I would say, maybe Friday at the earliest, unless you have some real compelling situation that is out there. I can send you the password, but right now it's password protected, and you'll get the password Saturday morning. If there's any conflict and you have any problems with this, just obviously let me know and we can figure that out. So do you all have any questions, comments, or concerns for me? I assume you all can hear me, right? Just making sure. I forgot to ask that at the beginning. Looks like my sound is on. So y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. And like I said, it's good to be, to be in touch with you guys. Obviously, in better situations, we would be in the bungalows in one of the rooms there talking about political science, probably sweating like crazy with the air conditioning not working. But we'll make do we'll make it work here. And I think, it's been going pretty well. It's hard to get away from that kind of interaction between teacher and student, but I think we're doing a pretty good job of it. I'm really trying to stay up with you guys. It's trying to stay in your guys' inboxes, so to speak, with things that I think are interesting and relevant to what we're learning in class. So let's go ahead. I don't want to waste any more of your time. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that are going to be on the exam. All right. So this quiz is going to be 30 questions. You'll have 45 minutes to complete it. Remember, once you answer a question and save it, you cannot go back and change it. All right. Just some things that are put into place to keep the integrity of the test and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and look at the study guide. What I would recommend is for you to answer these questions on the study guide and then have it ready when you take the exam. Like I said, the exam is going to be on Saturday. One of the things that we talked about was direct democracy and how direct democracy works here in California. Make sure you know the number of signatures you need on a petition for an amendment to the California Constitution and for a statute. So remember, an amendment to the Constitution, you need 8% of people that voted in the last gubernatorial election to sign a petition. And for a statute or a new law, you need 5%. So remember that, okay? Some of the things that we've been talking about are elite theory. Remember, elite theory is going to be, a focus on individuals that control our government, and in a sense, we kind of consent to them. They have power, and they're few in number. All right, so there's going to be a group of people that control the way we kind of see things here politically. And, it doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. It's very much a kind of amalgamation of different types of groups that participate in our political process, right? know who the masses are. Usually the masses are going to be seen as passive, apathetic, and ill-informed. That's kind of the theme of this class. You know, it behooves the elites to keep kind of the masses out of politics and maybe just in tune enough so they don't revolt, right? Know what pluralism is. Remember, pluralism is where groups come together and bargain. And I made an analogy from the Marvel Cinematic Universe of Wakanda, and Wakanda is a good example of pluralism, where you see that scene where the king is talking and all the different tribes are giving their input on public policy. That's kind of the ideal view of pluralism. Be able to tell me what the Connecticut Compromise was? You probably remember that from U.S. history. It's a point in history where there was a decision to provide the states with equal representation in the Senate and proportional representation in the House. So remember that. Know that during colonial times, only white men were property were able to vote. Know what the social contract is. Remember, the social contract is the belief that we as individuals and as citizens consent to laws, and in turn the government is supposed to protect our life, liberty, and property, kind of going along with that John Locke's belief on the social contract. Don't worry about Hobbes. We didn't really discuss Hobbes. We're actually going to focus on Hobbes next semester and Hobbes's view on how people are naturally in their state of nature and all that stuff. So don't worry about Hobbes right now, but do worry about Locke and know that Locke is kind of the father of American political thought, and that he felt that the government had the responsibility to protect the people from, you know, maybe foreign invasion or domestic insurrection, and also kind of protect them from each other. And that's why we have laws. You know, we consent to laws in a sense, and in return, the government's supposed to protect our life, liberty, and property. Know what tyranny of the majority is? Remember, tyranny of the majority basically says that you know, there has to be a system of checks and balances in place to prevent the minority from being exploited. And we're not talking about ethnic minority, you know, but you know, it could eventually evolve into that. But we're talking about anybody that is in that 49% category and below. So, you know, majority rules in the United States, 51%. If they want it, that'll happen. But it can't adversely affect the minority. And that's what James Madison talked about, to prevent that tyranny of the majority. All right. Know the problems of the Articles of Confederation and how they were considered to be weak. Remember, you had weak governors. You had no executive or judicial branch. The federal government did not have the power to tax or regulate trade. And that's a big thing, because remember, taxation and trade are revenue generators. So the government economy, the federal government economy wasn't developing. And that's something you all probably know from US history. Know what the characteristics of the men who wrote the Constitution were. You know, all of them were educated, elite places. They had experience with government. They had that national point of view. And when we talk about nationalism, we don't necessarily mean kind of the Nazi-esque type belief that our country is superior. We're going to kind of compromise our values for the betterment of the country. No, it basically means that you want to focus on developing this country, right? So let's not get confused. We'll talk about fascism and nationalism, like I said, in the next class in the spring. Know that the Constitution was set up to kind of provide an indirect way for people to be involved in government. Remember that originally, like I said, who could vote? White men with property. And, you know, we were able to elect our representatives before and now. But at that time, during 1787, all the way up until when the 17th Amendment passed, we only indirectly elected our senators. And, you know, through the Electoral College, we indirectly elect our president. So system of government at this time gives us a limited way to vote for our representatives, a limited way to vote for our senators, and also an indirect way to vote for president through the electoral college, which we'll revisit when we get to the executive branch, right? Know what the kind of elite consensus is. The elite's consensus was, to protect individual liberty, right? It's kind of the belief that we have to protect liberty. And one thing that I want you all to get out of this class is to be cognizant and to know your civil rights and your civil liberties. Know what the Manifest Dynasty was, or Manifest Destiny. I think I messed it up there. Where it was James Polk's kind of idea that we needed to spread America out west, even though it was inhabited already. Know what the New Jersey plan was. Remember, that was a proposal that determined that each state should have one vote and the national government should be separated into 3 different branches. Know how slavery was protected in the Constitution and how we had the 3/5 compromise. Then we had, kind of the returning of escaped slaves and an agreement not to end the slave trade before 1808. So make sure you understand that. Know the system of checks and balances and some of the checks that the president will have, like the veto, checks that the legislative branch will have, like overriding a veto or confirming the president's nominees. And the judicial branch, you all know Marbury versus Madison, right? That's a very common court case that the Supreme Court gave themselves the power to declare laws unconstitutional. Know a little bit about the Articles of Confederation and what powers reserved for the states in the Articles of Confederation. One of the problems, like I said, was the regulation of commerce that was inhibiting the federal government from developing the national economy. Like I said, know the definition of nationalism and how it's the belief that is necessary, in a sense, to submit to a national power over individual values. So kind of compromising your values for the betterment of the country. Know what the Bill of Rights were and how the Bill of Rights were, in a sense, given to us to protect us from the government, and that government could be seen as a direct threat to freedom. Know the ruling in Dred Scott. You guys will probably know that. Know the concept of industrialization in the 1800s, where we saw rapid growth of ownership in industries and how a lot of people started to get rich. Hold on. I don't know if you guys can hear, but I got a loud neighbor going by. Okay. Know that Governor Newsom and the recall, what happened with that. Ultimately, Governor Newsom was recalled through direct democracy, and he was retained. He was not removed from office. So make sure you understand that. We have cannabis laws that we could talk a little bit about. Remember, the 10th Amendment is part of the Bill of Rights, allows states to create laws as long as they don't conflict with the Constitution or infringe on any of the delegated powers that the Congress has. But remember, since with regards to the supremacy law, or the supremacy clause in the Constitution, conceivably the federal government can come into California and shut down all the dispensaries, because remember, federal law still has cannabis as a Schedule I narcotic, meaning it's illegal. Here in California, obviously it's legal for medicinal and recreational purposes, but hypothetically, the federal government can come in and shut down all the dispensaries and charge the growers and the sellers with federal crimes. A couple of things I'm going to add. Know the definition of power. And the power is who gets what, when, and how. And I also like to kind of you know, add to that and say that power is also, you know, the getting somebody to do something that they don't want to do. Know what activism is, and how sometimes activism gives rise to hatreds and violates the system's diplomatic values. Know what the iron law of oligarchy. That's kind of going back to chapter 1, where in any type of organization, there's going to be some type of elite, whether it's in politics, whether it's in school, whether it's in work. So there's always going to be an elite. That's part of elite theory. Know that the system, going back to checks and balances, know that the system of checks and balances is kind of used to make majority rule virtually impossible, right? And obviously know what a Republican form of government, kind of going back to the Connecticut Compromise, where the Connecticut Compromise gives the people in the House of Representatives to be able to fight for the best interests of the public. All right. So that's kind of what I got for the exam. Are there any questions that you may have? Questions, concerns, or comments? So speak now and forever hold your peace. Does this seem reasonable?
Oh, sorry. Can you go back to what were the economic and political conditions that started the revolution and clarify that again?
Oh, you know what? Don't worry about that one. Yeah. You can cross that one out. We're not going to get into that. And no, there won't be chapter 4 included in the exam. Chapter 4 will be in the next exam. So we're focusing primarily on weeks 1, 2, and 3, including direct democracy.
Are we supposed to be using the study guide on the test, or are we not supposed to use it at all?
No, I don't have a problem with you using it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so whatever helps you all. I don't know if you know me by now. I'm all for getting you all to learn and getting you all to do well in this class. So if you want to use the study guide while you're doing the exam, by all means.
Can you define the Virginia plan?
The Virginia plan was a plan that was originally proposed where it was very kind of analogous to what English Parliament is, where you would have representation based on population, and in turn you would have a more prestigious house or a prestigious chamber that would be chosen by the lower house. So in England, we have the House of Lords and the House of Commons. The House of Commons is chosen by the people. Then the House of Commons chooses the House of Lords. That was kind of what the Virginia plan put into place, but it didn't fly. So, that New Jersey plan and Virginia plan were kind of combined, aspects were taken out, and then we got the Connecticut Compromise. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, generally what I do once everybody is done with the exam, I'll go through the questions and do some analysis to see if there's some questions that might not be answered correctly, or maybe something I might have said that kind of contradict an answer to a question. So I'll go through that and look. If there are any questions that you have about the exam, definitely shoot me an email and let me know. It may take me a day or so to get through them, but I try to refine the exams as we go through each semester and take out some of the questions that might not work. There's a question about Federalist 51. Basically, Federalist 51 is written by Madison, and it kind of lays out the separation of powers doctrine. And that's where we get the whole belief that if men were angels, we would not need government. With that being said, you need independent kind of checks and balances on each branch of government to ensure that one branch isn't monopolizing power, right? So that's kind of what we get out of Federalist 51. Does
What's
some
the
of this
format?
say that again?
Sorry, what's the format of the test? Is there written questions or is it multiple
No,
choice?
it's primarily going to be mostly multiple choice and a couple of true false. Yeah, I'm going to make you guys do your writings when you do your Supreme Court project. There's an elite consensus that, you know, one thing is that we need to protect individual liberty and the sanctity of individual liberty. And that's kind of what elites kind of focus on with regards to the ability to define and to look at issues that might affect us as far as civil liberties or civil rights. So it's kind of, there's kind of a consensus that we need to protect individual liberty and individual rights and civil rights. So how's the class going for you guys? I know it's a little bit of a difficult situation that we're in right now, and I have kind of, we've been told that next semester will also be online. Hopefully I'll still have you all. Generally that's how it works. We'll do the one-on-one class, but I just want to kind of gauge you all and see how it's going for all of you. And Kyla, don't worry too much about the deadlines. I want you to focus more on the percentages, because I know there were a lot of deadlines that were mentioned in the slides. Don't get too hung up on that. Mostly though, the percentages and the things needed to get a petition to be submitted to the Attorney General's office. So remember the 8% for a constitutional amendment and a 5% for a statute or a new law. So like I said, before each exam, we could probably do this on the Wednesday before during the office hours. I think this works pretty well. If there's any situation that you guys want to discuss something, if a group of you get together and want to kind of maybe talk about issues going on right now, definitely email me or send me a message on the Remind app. I can check my schedule and I can definitely fit you into some part of the day here, probably every day. I mean, I teach at another institution on Mondays through Thursdays, but there's always time that I can make for you all. Remember my office hours, I tried to schedule my office hours during your lunch period. I know I missed one last week. That's when my arm was kind of messed up and I had to go to urgent care and get it taken and look at, but I finally got the cast off today. So that is liberating. And I'll be able to give you a little bit better feedback than I have in the past week and a half or so. So remember, look at my feedback on papers and discussions that you do. We can also do one of these sessions when we get maybe a month out from when your paper is due, when your Supreme Court project is due. We could talk about that. So I'll definitely send you an invitation for that. And also just remember that if there's anything that, you know, if you want to meet with me, we could definitely set up a time if you want to meet as a group and if you want to discuss certain issues. You know, October 1st is coming up, and from reading some of your papers, I know a lot of you are concerned about some reproductive rights that might be maybe curtailed a bit coming out of the Supreme Court. So we'll definitely keep a look at that. I sent you a news story about a week ago with regards to that, but you know, the Supreme Court starts on October 1st, and we may see some civil liberties as far as reproductive rights being whittled away a bit. And you know, these laws in Texas, Mississippi, Alabama that have been coming out have really kind of hindered women's reproductive rights. So if you ever want to talk about things like that, just let me know and I'm open to doing that. All right. Like I said, I wish I was in school with you, but we'll make it happen. Did you all start at 8:30 now? I know there was was it a state law that was passed that you can't start earlier than 8:30? Are you guys starting at 8:30 now? 8:45. And what time does school end? 3:15 is sure. 3:30. Okay, so that's good to know. So like I said, I'll be online on Mondays from 12:30 to 1:30. So if you guys want to contact me during lunch, I'll be online. I'll send you guys the link. All right. What time do you guys get out of school? What time does the last period end? So just so I know and I can figure out 3:30. Okay, sounds good. All right, any other questions, concerns, or comments? All right, remember, don't overthink on the test. Have your study guide ready when you take the test and you should do okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. If you want to stick around and talk to me, I'm gonna turn the record off. But I'm gonna post this for your fellow classmates for those that couldn't make it. All right, I'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Take it easy.